Hey guys, welcome back. So for this one, we're jumping into Philip K. Johnson's brand new Hulk series, which not only is bringing back the horror, but it's also telling a new story, which builds on top of Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk, as well as Donny Cates and Ryan Ottley's run, as it ushers in the Age of Monsters. So if you need to get caught up, I got links in the description for my 6-hour deep dive in Immortal Hulk, as well as the Titan Hulk saga, because those discussions will give you a better idea of why Bruce and the Hulk are where they are going into this story. And with that said, let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so for this one, we begin 1 year ago in Iraq with a group who'd made their way to a tomb believing that it was full of treasure. And rather quickly you can tell that these guys really aren't even supposed to be here, because as soon as they make their way in, they're talking about the university crew being there at sunup, so the plan is to grab as many valuables as possible and get up out of there. But while they're here, they quickly discover that this isn't exactly the king's tomb full of treasure that they thought it would be, but instead, this tomb is filled with monsters of an origin that is initially meant to be a mystery, which will unfold throughout the course of this series. But with this group coming here, they start looking around trying to find what they could take that would be worth something, but instead of treasure, all they're finding everywhere is bones, with some of them appearing to be very abnormal, which causes them to speculate like, hey, those could be worth something, like maybe it's a prehistoric mutant. But while they're looking around, one of them, who's this girl by the name of Trudy, she finds this small skull that likely belonged to a child, which for a moment has her wondering like, how did this kid get here? But while she's observing this skull, one of the others tell her she needs to pack it up, they gotta go, so they come over to get her and place their hand on her shoulder, but then her head does a full 180, and she responds by saying, "The green door is shut." And quickly we come to find that she's no longer there, as this creature tears through from the inside of her body, clawing its way out. And this thing goes on to say thank you to the rest of her friends. And I mean, as it eats them, of course, thank you all for coming here. And after that, it turns around and says, "I am coming, mother, coming to free you and all of my brothers and sisters, because none now remain with the strength to deny us our kingdom, because the green door is shut." And with seeing this, we're already getting references to the conclusion of Immortal Hulk, when at the time, though Bruce couldn't remember all of the events from the below place, he described the feeling as a door as old as Gamma itself closing, and a new one opening wide. But as we continue through this series, we'll see more references to a number of events that led up till now. But at this point, we then move forward 1 year into the present day, where we find Bruce in Kentucky at Jack's Diner, where he's scraping together what change he has to order however many sandwiches he can get and just keep it moving. But while he's here placing his order, he hears someone over his shoulder saying he can't decide if he's a superhero or a beggar. So right away, Bruce thinks this lady's talking to him. But as it turns out, she was talking about her dog, who was whining and trying to get a sandwich from Bruce. So she tells him to clear it up, but then she asks Bruce if he's okay, because Bruce looks like he's in trouble. And in response, he doesn't bother to go into too much detail. He just tells her that he is in trouble with somebody, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it. And with him letting her know that he can't really stick around, he's gotta go. Before he leaves, he gives a piece of his sandwich to her dog, but as he goes to pay for it, the waitress tells him to bundle up, it's getting cold out there. And then in the reflections, Bruce sees the Hulk saying, "Especially for a puny little thing like you. Warned you, Banner. You should have stayed away." And with hearing this banner, he immediately takes off in an attempt to leave this diner and get as far away from it as possible, racing across the street and into the woods, while telling the Hulk, "Please don't, it's not their fault." But in response, the Hulk tells him, "No, your fault, Banner, your fault." And from Banner's perspective, he just blacks out and then wakes up in this crater with no idea of how long he's been out for, or really no clue of where he's at. But with it being quite clear that the Hulk had taken over, Banner turns around and he realizes that he's still across the street from the diner, which is now completely wrecked, with the writing on the wall that reads, "Your fault." Which for a moment has me thinking like, did the Hulk just grab a spray can and whip up some graffiti art real quick? Not really sure. But with seeing this, Banner then hears police sirens, so he then takes off into the woods. And as we continue, it's from here where we begin to see a number of different elements coming together. Because next, we're introduced to a young girl by the name of Charlene, who we find sneaking out while her dad is asleep after he'd had a beer or two, or 3, or 10. But she goes outside to finish fixing up the Mustang that her grandmother had handed down to her that she had secretly and quietly been working on for months with a bit of help from her friend Rusty, who, as it seems, he may have a bit of a crush on her. But as they're finishing up and putting the tires back on the car, it slips off the jack stand, making a loud noise and waking up her dad. And he just comes outside yelling at Charlene like, "What are you doing to my car?" Which kind of reminds me of this being something that I've seen before. And this may have happened to one of you guys, but let me know in the comments if when you were a kid, was there ever a time when somebody gave you a gift, but then it was intercepted by your parents, but deep down inside you knew that gift was for you? Let me know in the comments. I'm gonna be looking for those stories. But when her dad comes outside, Charlene just takes off running, and she can hear her dad off in the distance threatening her life. But as she's running, she stumbles for a bit, but she gets back up and continues to run, while going on to say, "I'm gonna be bigger than you someday, old man. Bigger, tougher, and strong. Stronger than anybody." Which right there has me thinking like, okay, we'll keep an eye on this one. Kind of like Jackie McGee in Immortal Hulk. However, from here we continue to jump back and forth, and when we go back to Jack's diner, we find that the FBI has made their way there. But as they're being briefed on how to approach Banner and not the Hulk, we then see a van pull up, and stepping out of this van, we see Trudy and a few friends who walk past the police and FBI while referring to them as cattle. But as they make their way into the woods in the same direction that Bruce took off in, we find that the others refer to Trudy as the eldest, since once again this isn't actually Trudy, but rather the creature that we saw a year ago take her body and body snatch / skinwalk, with it using her appearance to this day. But also from what we know, this creature's looking to free its mother and its siblings, with it being the eldest of the siblings, which is why it's referred to as Elder. But with coming out here, the Elder tells one of the others, who the Elder refers to as its cunning boy, to head out into the woods and find the Hulk, so that with doing so, it will allow him to feed, which now sends this creature running out into the woods. So you can see what I'm saying about all these moving pieces coming closer together. But from here, we then head over to Charlene, who's being chased down by her dad, who's caught up with her in the Mustang. And when he does, this guy, he tries to reach from the driver's side through the passenger side to snatch her up, and he almost hits the poor kid in the process, only to crash the Mustang into a tree. And at this moment nearby, we can hear the FBI talking to Banner, with them letting Bruce know that Tony Stark helped them out with some special equipment, and he's waiting on Bruce to give him a hand with all this. But Bruce tells them that they can't be here because he's being hunted. So they ask him, by who? And Bruce tells them, the Hulk. He's not playing Avenger anymore, and this is between Bruce and him. And right away, one of these FBI agents is kind of like, well, how'd that work? How this man a Hulk and he gonna run away from the Hulk? But then from here, Bruce goes on to explain to them a rundown of what happened with the whole Smastronaut situation, when at the time Bruce had more or less won this battle with the Hulk, locked him away in his mind, and had the Hulk under control. But now the situation's changed, and the Hulk wants to take control of Bruce's body permanently. And with hearing Bruce say this, one of the FBI agents, he's like, you know what, we should probably run, like Banner said. And with them saying that, the dude is half smart, because this is one of those situations where you just run and ask for forgiveness later. Because now at this point, Banner lets them know that it's too late. The Hulk is here. And I'm gonna tell you right now, when we see this transformation, which was illustrated by Nick Klein, he killed it, with colors by Matthew Wilson. I gotta say, with how this was done, Nick Klein is giving me heavy Dale Keown vibes, because it really reminds me of Keown's work on Incredible Hulk and especially Pitt. And I mean, it could just be because this is a Hulk issue, because Nick Klein has been getting down for a while, especially in the recent Thor series. But something about this one just takes me back to that old school Dale Keown vibe. Might just be me. But with the Hulk coming out at this point and taking over, he says, this body is mine, Banner is mine. And you know, really, I wouldn't mind seeing the Hulk take control and have his turn after everything that's happened, because it just feels like there's a lot of potential there. But then from here, the Hulk goes on to tell the FBI agents, to tell Tony Stark to leave him alone, as he just smacks a bunch of these guys to the side, which may cause a problem with these guys getting that message to Tony, because most of them probably gonna slip into a coma and forget, and the others probably just didn't hear it because all the screaming. So my guess is, early on, Tony's never gonna get that message. But as I'd mentioned before, all of this is happening like right next to Charlene, because she's literally close enough to have overheard the FBI talking to Banner earlier. And with her seeing the Hulk for this moment, it's jaw-dropping. And as the Hulk walks away, she hears her dad coughing and crawling out of the car. So she goes over to him. She hears him still talking junk. And it's here where we can tell that Charlene has reached her breaking point, because she then just puts the pause on him. And I mean, she gets a kick in there as she catches her breath, but then soon after her father is resubscribed to OnlyHands. And in this moment, we get what I believe is another bit of foreshadowing, with young Charlene also saying the age-old classic Hulk line, which is "Leave me alone." And at this point, with her father all lumped up, we get our first look at the rest of Charlene's face, of which I'm sure we'll get more of a backstory to throughout the course of this series. But at a glance, it kinda reminds me of Tanjiro from Demon Slayer, and I kinda got a feeling that going forward, it may be her signature as well. But as Charlene walks away in the Hulk's direction, we then see the quote-unquote cunning clever boy creature who had been told by the Elder to find the Hulk before he can feed. And as it turns out, he was here watching, so he found the Hulk, which means now he can feed. But as he's chomping down on Charlene's dad, the Elder finds him and reminds him that he's supposed to track down the Hulk before he ate. So he tells the Elder that he did, and the Hulk is not too far away, as he points out the Hulk's blood on a nearby bush, while also referring to the Hulk as the fractured son. But he goes on to tell the eldest that he had noticed Banner and Hulk are enemies, and Banner fears the Hulk. And the eldest says that this is a good thing. Fear has ever been the truest worship. But also with Banner wanting to get rid of the Godflesh and get rid of the Hulk, that's something that can work in their favor. But then the eldest looks to the woman that they brought along, and it tells the woman that she's done well, even though she has something of the Green Door in her. And at one point when she was mortal, she was the mate of the Hulk's vessel, which right away lets us know that this is none other than Betty Ross. But to clear up a bit of what the eldest is talking about here, as far as Betty having something of the Green Door in her, this is a callback to Defenders issue 3, written by Al Ewing, when Doctor Strange transferred all his magic over to Betty, filtering it through her so that she could access the Green Door and manifest it in the 5th cosmos to overthrow Moradin by banishing him with a power that was above his weight class, or technically below, with primordial magic not standing a chance against the Green Door. But at this point, the eldest goes on to tell Betty that it can feel her trying to cast it out of her mind, but essentially this will be of no use because Betty's still a child of the Mother of Horrors, and the eldest is the firstborn of her offspring. Then from here, the eldest calls out to every monster, commanding them by the will of the once and future ruler of Earth, the almighty Mother of Horrors, telling all of them to seek out the fractured son, the one that men name Hulk. And it goes on to say that his spirit is that of a willful brute, that of the one below all, our enemy, but his flesh is ours by right. It is the key with which we will free the Mother of Horrors and usher in the new age of monsters, which now puts every monster on the hunt for the Hulk. But as we go back to the Hulk, we find that Charlene is caught up with him, and he doesn't seem too happy about it. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/Dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.